The assault lasted only minutes, but what he was effectively telling me while he held my genitals in his hand was that he held the power.
So I just had to play this clip, man, real quick because, Terry Crews has been a Butter Biscuit coon-tastic Sambo his basically entire career, it's typical, it's typical. Like I've said before, it's this guy wants to show favoritism and support of the dominant white society, of all the infrastructure they control, so that he can just basically continue to get the checks that they write for him, right? And this guy now is basically a sideshow puppet for America's Got Talent, where they have a revolving door of all these hosts and judges, especially black judges and hosts, revolving door of people, and you wonder why they keep changing hosts and judges on that show, right? And the fact that only one person, which is Gabrielle Union, spoke out about the toxic culture, which she claims when she was actually working for America's Got Talent during her time when she was a judge there. That's the only person that spoke out. And then you got a Sambo coon who loves Butter Biscuits that wants to continue to get checks by these executives at NBC for America's Got Talent. Terry Crews wants to defend the network and the show that he still works on. Which, of course, he could be replaced just like that. They could find the next Sambo coon puppet that they can control and manipulate and keep, and ask them to be submissive to them as long as you keep getting them goddamn checks. So, Gabrielle Union comes out, of course, and she made a statement saying that when she was spending her time there working on America's Got Talent, it was a toxic environment, toxic culture. She experienced racism there. She experienced sexism there, and things of that nature. And recently Terry Crews comes out and says, and I'll read the quote real quick. I'll read the quote, what he said. He says, quote, "First of all, I can't speak for sexism because I'm not a woman. But I can speak on behalf of any racism comments. That was never my experience. Of course not." He said during an interview on the third hour of Today, "In fact, it was the most diverse place I've ever seen in 20 years of my entertainment." Anybody who uses the word diverse when it comes to workplace or any kind of context of what Terry Crews is talking about, for a fact they fall in line with the status quo. They fall in line. If racism hit them right in the face with an assault rifle, a guillotine, a goddamn grenade, they would say, no, it's not racism because I never experienced it. Didn't happen to me. Even though racism hit them right in the goddamn face with an assault rifle. Right? They still would defend their oppressors, their enemies. Even though they don't consider their oppressors their enemies. They consider them diverse. Equality. Right? Like I say, anybody who uses those terms, diverse, equality, they fall in line with the status quo. They fall in line with, yeah, it didn't happen to me. I didn't experience that growing up. It never happened to me. They pay me well. And if they made me lose my job, I'll find another job. Right? So, a guy like Terry Crews, who suffers from mental illnesses like Stockholm Syndrome, cognitive dissonance, post-traumatic slavery disorder. Of course, he would never admit that. He'll never admit that, but it clearly shows that's where he's suffering from, as well as most people classified as black who live in America, right? They'll never admit that. But it goes to show you somebody who admits that he was sexually assaulted by a top Hollywood exec, groped. And then you got the outcry support of other women who support you. in the Me Too movement era that we live in today. Right? They supported you when you were groped, allegedly, by this Hollywood exec. But then someone who worked in your former employer's job, America's Got Talent, Gabrielle Union, your former coworker, who experienced, right, mistreatment at her job, this basically said how she felt. You don't show support. In fact, the only support you showed was using your wife as a shield to deflect the issues of mistreatment of women in the workplace. You use your wife as, the only woman I gotta please is my wife. So you use her as a shield to deflect everything else. When all Gabrielle Union was saying is expressing her experience on the time of America's Got Talent, saying it was a toxic culture environment, and the fact that, women who are mistreated at the workplace, it should be addressed and should be dealt with. That's all she said. You want to deflect that using your wife as a shield. That's even more disrespectful than anything else, to be honest with you. You using your wife as a shield to deflect the elephant in the room, which is mistreatment of women in the workplace. That was a huge sign of disrespect. If I was your wife, let me tell you something, man. If your wife had the decency to come up and tell you that what you just did was a complete slap in the face of our marriage, because of the fact that the point Gabrielle Union was making was women who are mistreated at their workplace, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be talked about. That's her experience. Well, matter of fact, and my point would be, anybody who is mistreated in their workplace, male or female, should be addressed and should be dealt with. Because from your perspective, you mistreated at whatever the hell you was doing. I guess you were doing Hollywood initiation, is what they call it, right? You being grabbed by the balls, allegedly. I guess that's your initiation to get them checks, to be submissive and docile. For these Hollywood execs and these Hollywood production studios to give you these checks and be submissive. So that's how I see it. I was never a fan of Terry Crews in the first place. Terry Crews always just seemed like a big dunce camp wearing motherfucker that's just a low IQ, Sambo coon type of dude that just really does not understand how racism, white supremacy works, and will understand it because he has so many mental disorders that I've talked about before. Stockholm syndrome, cognitive dissonance, post-traumatic slavery disorder, stuff like that. So he'll never get it. So I was never a fan of him like that in the first place. And the powers that be of America's Got Talent, like Simon Cowell, stuff like that, these executives, right, who run the show, let me tell you something, these guys will never get caught unless there's so much evidence against them that they have no choice but to get them out of there. And of course, once you get them out of there, you got to find somebody to replace them with. But right now, Simon Cowell seems to be the most powerful guy on the show. And I'm pretty sure he's the one that orchestrated everything. Right? So, it is what it is, family. Those are my thoughts on that. Leave your comments down below about Terry Crews and Gabrielle Union. Whose side are you on? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, family. Until next time, make sure you follow me on Instagram at GMOGMediaTV. Till next time, rest in peace, Kobe. Signing out. Peace.